Under the vast desert sky, Job knelt in the dust of his shattered life. His once prosperous land now stretched out barren, silent, except for the occasional rustle of wind through the charred remains of his crops. His skin, once bronzed by the sun's warmth, now burned with boils, each pulse of pain a reminder of all he had lost. His children, the joy of his life, gone. His wealth, his health, his future, all stripped away in an unrelenting sweep of tragedy. And for what? Job had lived righteously, walked in integrity. He had feared God and shunned evil. Yet, here he was, abandoned to suffering with no explanation, no fault of his own. Far beyond Job's sight, in a realm invisible to human eyes, unseen forces had whispered. A celestial conversation, too distant for his ears, had set his world crumbling. The voice of the adversary had cut through the heavens. Does Job fear God for nothing? The question hung like a shadow over the man's life. Strip away his blessings, the voice had wagered, and see how quickly his devotion falters. It wasn't just Job's righteousness that was on trial, it was the very nature of faith itself. But Job didn't know this. He sat among the ashes of what remained, scraping his wounds with broken pottery, eyes turned upward, seeking answers. Why? The question boiled within him, as raw and painful as the sores on his skin. Why do the righteous suffer? Why does a man who has done no wrong sit in misery while others, far less pious, continue in comfort? His friends arrived, 3 figures silhouetted against the harsh desert sun. At first, they sat in silence, their eyes downcast, mourning the depth of his pain. But silence soon gave way to questions, and then to accusations. "Surely, Job, you have sinned," they said, their voices harsh, with the certainty of a world where suffering meant guilt. "Why else would God punish you? Repent, and perhaps he will relent." Their words cut deeper than the shards of pottery in Job's hand. But Job, though broken, held firm. He had committed no secret sin, harbored no hidden wrong. His suffering had no easy explanation, and he would not accept their shallow theology of cause and effect. "Tell me, God," Job cried one night, his voice cracking in the stillness. The stars above blinked silently, distant, indifferent to his cries. His fists pounded the earth as his spirit wrestled with the unseen. If there was a reason for his pain, he demanded to know. He would not be satisfied with the hollow answers of men. And then, in a moment, as startling as the storm clouds that gathered on the horizon, God spoke, not in the way Job had expected. There were no direct answers, no cosmic secrets revealed. Instead, the Almighty took Job on a journey. Out of the whirlwind came the voice, booming and vast, stretching Job's mind beyond his own small world of suffering. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth?" the voice asked, not in rebuke, but as a reminder of the depth and breadth of creation. In a flash, Job saw the rolling thunderheads over distant mountains, the mighty Leviathan churning the sea's depths, and the stars, flung like jewels across the sky. He stood before the vastness of the universe, its intricate, incomprehensible web of life and death, beauty and chaos. His questions, sharp, urgent, pressing, faded into the background. The world was far bigger than his suffering. Job's body trembled, not from fear, but from awe. His pain, real and raw, was still present, but it was no longer the center of his existence. He saw the majesty of a creator who governed the chaos with wisdom far beyond human understanding. And in that vastness, Job found something more profound than the answers he had sought. He found peace. Not the peace of explanations, but the peace that comes from trust. Trust in a God whose ways are higher than his own, whose wisdom is woven into the very fabric of the world, seen and unseen. His friends had come seeking justice. They wanted to weigh the scales, to measure suffering against righteousness, like merchants tallying debts. But Job had learned something deeper. Life was not a ledger, and suffering was not a mark of divine punishment. He could not understand all the reasons behind his pain, but in the face of God's grandeur, he didn't need to. He bowed low, humbled before the mystery. "I know that you can do all things," Job whispered, his heart quiet at last. "I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know." In that silence, Job discovered the heart of faith, not the certainty that life would be fair, but the quiet assurance that the God who held the universe also held him. And so, the story of Job endures, not as a neat answer to the problem of suffering, but as a reminder that faith is not about understanding all things. It is about trusting the one who does. As we stand in our own valleys of sorrow, Job's journey invites us to step beyond our questions, to gaze at the vastness of creation and the wisdom that sustains it all. Like Job, we may not receive the answers we long for, but in the depths of our confusion and pain, we are invited to trust. And in that trust, we find peace. Not because life is simple or just, but because we are held by the one whose wisdom transcends our own.